Discovery Plus has really built quite a bit of buzz, since it started. So
Yeah.
it's good to have faith content on there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think they will be pleasantly surprised at how many people turn up, you know,
Right. Right.
because we're all hungry, aren't we? We're all hungry for content that reflects what we believe and speaks to our values. And I think, to have a resurrection story on television for Easter is pretty perfect.
Yes. Yes. And that's what like you said, especially coming out of the year that we've been through,
Yes.
to have this hope. I've been listening to gospel albums that people said, I'm doing a gospel album like Harry Connick Jr. I'm doing a gospel album because this is what I was drawn to during the shutdown, you know. And so
Yes.
people are looking to hope and they're looking to things that build their faith through this. And I think this is a project like that.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think also, I have very strong memories as a child, a long time ago, of watching, The Greatest Story Ever Told, or, whatever the Ten Commandments, I guess, those biblical movies that we would gather around as a family. And they became annual traditions, that we
Right.
could, and I'm, prayerful that Son of God and now Resurrection, can be those movies for contemporary families, that celebrate our faith, but that are told in a way that still feels, you know, dynamic and compelling and exciting.
Right.
Because if ever there was a time of drama and danger, it was this time, right? And we see the courage and the bravery of these first disciples,
Right.
um, and what they went through. But you know, but they saw him, you
And
know. I,
the humanity of them being so
yes.
anxious and worried. We see the big
Oh,
picture. We've already seen the ending, but they didn't
yes.
see that. They,
Oh.
what they thought was going to happen didn't happen, and maybe they filled in the blanks in their mind. But uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, fear
it's
can be a very powerful thing, can't it?
yeah,
And there's nothing more powerful than the fear in your own mind. Sometimes, if that's the loudest voice and that's the one that's getting your attention, and at a time when they just killed Jesus, saw him die on the
right,
cross, and you can understand Simon, who is the most outspoken character in the movie, saying, we got to get out of here. I mean, clearly they're going to round us up and we're going to be next.
right,
And we got to go back. We owe it to our families. And the others saying, when Mary, Jesus's mother, said, he said he would come back in 3 days. Can't you wait at least 3 days?
right,
You know, and of course they do. And the rest, as they say, is history.
yeah.
um Life changing for everybody.
When did you first have the idea to put this together for Discovery Plus like this?
Well, we you know built from the all these feelings that we're discussing, that were coming up for all of us during the pandemic. Mark and I, in conversation, said, wouldn't it be great if we had had something that we could release over Easter time? And because we had had such success with Son of God, which was a derivative of the Bible series, um, we thought to go back in and look at AD and see, wasn't there a beautiful film that could be cut from that? And so
Right,
that was sort of the first thoughts. Back then, this might have been last Easter, and we were just in the beginning of the lockdown and everything, and we thought, well, maybe by next Easter, if we could get this done, it would be a great thing to have on at the cinema, to go to the theater. And that was really our first thought, was that we could cut together a film and play it in the theaters. Of course, here we are a year later, and we're still, if
right,
not in lockdown, we're still deep in this thing, and
right,
theaters are opening, but just a little bit across the country. And so we thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity to get it on a streamer. And we have a great relationship with David Zaslav and now with his team. And in them, we have found the perfect partners for Resurrection. They've been terrific. They've been so supportive. And I think they're aware that, that there's a large audience, not just the Christian audience, but there's a large audience for content like this that is driven by hope and reflects values that we hold near and dear. And unfortunately, we just don't see enough of it anywhere, And so we were thrilled with the film that emerged from the series. And it really begins with the crucifixion of Jesus and then follows that terrible time, like we were discussing, in the immediate aftermath of his death, and all of those very human emotions that were present for them, the fear and the uncertainty and, the sadness and the grief at losing the Lord, and their teacher. They were and they were scattered, so they didn't even really have a support system with each other until they all finally came together. And the chaos that was playing out in the city at that time, the chaos, we see the political chaos, which I find so fascinating with Pontius Pilate and Caiaphas, and them knowing that that Jesus had claimed to be the Messiah. Indeed, that's why they murdered him, because he'd made that claim. And so after Joseph of Arimathea has offered his tomb to Mary, that she can lay her son in his tomb, Caiaphas is incensed, because this is playing right into the prophecy. Right. And so out of fear that that the disciples would come maybe and steal the body of Jesus and pretend that he'd risen, he goes to Pontius Pilate and says, you've got to put your armed guards and put your seal on this tomb. And Pilate thinks it's ridiculous, but he says, if it puts an end to this once and for all, then I will do that. And he sends the Roman legion to the tomb, and they seal the tomb which we know takes many men to move, roll away that stone. And so in what I think is just a spectacular sequence, Dwayne, didn't you love that scene?
Oh yeah. And
it's just so exciting. And they're there, and it's like the earthquake, and we see the heavens and the light.
The light coming down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and the angel coming down, and just, with, just ethereal strength, he just, just pushes that stone away. But before that, we see the light radiating from inside the tomb, coming out through the edges of the stone. And, Jesus has risen, and those soldiers are terrified, they're like just dumbstruck. And of course, the Lord has risen. Oh, it just gives me goosebumps to talk about it, and it is, for all of us who do believe, and for any of us who've ever had a Thomas moment. We see the scene in our movie with Thomas, who says, until I see him, they're all in the room, and they all say to him, no, believe us. We just saw him. He was just here. And he's like, and myself put my hands in his wounds, I won't believe. And then Jesus appears to him, and says, but what about all those people? That's us, all of those people who won't see but do believe, And the film, I think, is just...
I love that at the end, how you bring it to, the people that have not seen and believe, that challenge at the end.
Yes, that's right. And to bring it back into the modern day and say, it started with Jesus, and then the Holy Spirit empowered the disciples to go out and preach. But they were a small group of people, And so at the end of the film, we just wanted to connect that thought with the billions of believers all
Right.
across the world today. And, that couldn't have happened without the Holy Spirit, and
Right.
the, it's just incredible. So I think that, I think the film does exactly what it needs to do. It just reminds people of how extraordinary the story is, and you can't help but feeling hopeful and inspired and uplifted and triumphant,
Right.
because he came to teach us not to be afraid, and to trust in him. And anyway, it's a beautiful film, and we're, it's just very exciting that we get to roll it out on Discovery Plus. It goes up on their platform, Dwayne, on the 27th of March, and then
Yeah.
it will, play out throughout the Easter season and beyond, for them. And I think the great thing about Discovery Plus is that they're filled with family friendly, um,
Right.
content, and it doesn't cost that much to subscribe. You think of, really what you would pay for a movie ticket, and if you
Right.
were taking the family, it's still, a very inexpensive evening. And I just encourage people to sign up for Discovery Plus if they haven't, maybe to call their neighbors over, or gather their family if it's safe to do so, and to watch the
Right.
film together, to share that experience together. It's, very special.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to tell everyone in my church about it. It's a story like this, like we've talked about, that you feel like you know because you've heard it your whole life. But still, when you take a fresh approach to it, you see things that you didn't see before. You put
That's
your
right.
there's a realism in this one, and you look at one of the disciples and say, I feel that way.
Right.
I failed him. I doubted.
Different things
So
to identify. That's true. So true. And I think that, some people are visual learners. I find I myself am. And, if I've seen something, it's easier even like to see the film and then to go back into scripture. It sort of brings the scripture to life in a different
yeah,
way, you know. And we had such a, I look back on that time. We filmed, the movie in Morocco, which is where we had also filmed the Bible series, and we had learned so much throughout the filming of the Bible series. Um, and we had built a city. We like built Jerusalem, and, I mean, it was beautiful. These sets were incredible, and we had a fabulous, Italian costumier who came up with this beautiful, um, you know, ancient fabrics, and, so the look and the feel of the production values. Uh, it looks, like a very, you know, um, textured and
right.
real
Yeah,
environment. It looks like it's authentic. And there was
yeah,
a lot of care and attention, taken and given to all those details, and bringing in camels and goats and donkeys and endless, sandals. And, honestly, over the course of my career, Twain, when I think of how many Roman soldiers' costumes I've gone through and ordered and been
yeah,
and responsible for, I know that at my own church, they often laugh and say, I don't know that I was the most attentive, um, kid in Bible study growing up. And, I just certainly don't believe that I would have been the child that somebody would have, written and said, this child is going to grow up and produce, all this biblical content. I mean, in my career as a producer, believe it or not, I've had to cast, Jesus 3 times,
right.
and I've produced the crucifixion of Jesus 3 times. And in fact, with the addition of the 2 movies, so if you consider, the Bible series and Son of God, and AD series and Resurrection, and Ben-Hur. So it's five times I will have overseen the crucifixion of Jesus. And, I just think it's such a profound privilege as a
Yes.
believer to get to share his story visually uh, with, to create content like this. Because I think that there's an opportunity here too. We do know the story, and we who've been raised in church understand the story. But there's a lot of people, that maybe haven't had that kind of, um,
Right.
instruction and haven't had that sort of exposure. And to come in to see, an exciting film like this, you don't know how it will touch their hearts, and I live in hope for those moments too.
Yes. Well, when you were talking, Roma, I just want to affirm you, and I know that you know this, but God raised you up for a reason, and He gave you the platform that you have for a reason. You know, and like you said, you would have never guessed it. Those open
No,
doors.
no, I would never have guessed it. And honestly, Dwayne, the creation of this content hasn't been without its challenges along
Right.
the way, and there have been times when, it felt like you've been, swimming upstream
Right.
with your arms tied behind your back.
Right.
There've been those moments, certainly, but we just try to keep stepping forward with trust,
Yeah.
and when there were particularly challenging things happening, we have such a great community that we just would call in for people to to pray. If I knew it was a
Right.
challenging scene, or we had, and the crucifixions were always challenging because we had to put a man on a cross, and
Right.
there were certain dangers. It's like, to make sure that cross was bolted to the ground, and that there were winds involved, and that cross was never in danger of falling over, and that actor falling on his face, it could have killed him. I mean,
Right.
there were just the logistics of that were so hard, and then all of the emotionality that goes along with that. And um, one who plays Jesus in Resurrection did such an amazing job. And I know that he, like all of the actors who played Jesus for me, that scene is particularly it creates anxiety for the actor to do that. First of all, they want to get it right, but there's just a physical nervousness to it. And and it's such a iconic image, and they want to do it justice,
Yeah.
and so, and emotionally it's challenging to be that vulnerable, up there. And I for the filming of Resurrection, I flew into location in Morocco, uh, Juan Pablo's mum, um, because on the day of filming, I thought that it would be special for him to be able to look down at the cross and have somebody that really loved him, because Jesus did have his mother at the foot of the
Yeah.
cross. And so she came out. She's actually an artist, and she's a painter of religious art. She actually has a piece hanging at the Vatican. And so
Oh
she was
wow.
so thrilled to be able to attend and to be there. And I know it was very meaningful for him, gave him a great emotional support to have his own mother present. So we try to bring some humanity to our producing, Dwayne. I think also my many years as an actor on Touched by an Angel, I think it has informed my career as a producer in a different way, because I understand the needs of actors, because I've
Right.
I've been one myself for so long. Um, I always try to create a nice warm welcome, because you arrive in Morocco, you're jet lagged, you don't know anybody, you're
Right.
about to start a new job. You're it's anything that creates a little bit of warmth and
Right.
makes you feel special. And I also gave everybody, when they arrived, a copy of the New Testament, and thinking that they would, as an actor, your job usually is to try to do as much research as you can on the
Right.
character that you're playing. And not everybody has the luxury of having a book that creates context like the Bible does for the role you might be playing. And so, because not all of our actors necessarily were Christians, but
Right.
they all approach the roles with great sincerity and a desire to bring something special to each of the roles. And I think that the ensemble cast did a terrific job. And we tried where we could, Dwayne, to bring in diversity also in our casting,
Right.
which I think is you know I think is important. We wanted the audience to see the film and to see the world we live in. We
Right.
Our world is made up of all ages and all shapes and sizes and all colors, and
Yeah.
and so we try to weave that through the narrative as well, where we could.
I thought you did that very well. I thought you did it very well in the Bible too.
Thank
It
you.
was just really well done. Both of them just seem seamless in their
Thank
diversity.
you.
And
Yeah, yeah. I
we're-
know, and sometimes I remember we got some pushback. We had this great African Samson,
yes,
and but I've also learned that not everybody's going to love everything you do, and
right. Yeah.
you still have to have the courage just to step out. And on this, when in doubt, we've just like really prayed our way through it, that we
Right.
would make good choices, that we would make the right choices, particularly with our scripts. I think when you're dealing with subject matter like this, and this really was dealing more with the Book of Acts, and following through that, we just try to make it as authentic. It's our Bible after all, and the
Right.
story itself is so good. And then the parts that the Bible don't provide, to try to pull that in from the history books and to flesh out, to make that a very rich and dynamic story, because you've got the believers. They weren't yet called Christians. You've got the
Right.
believers, the disciples of Jesus. You've got the the Sanhedrin, and and then you've got the Romans. So it's almost like these three different schools of thought, and the tensions between them and the dangers between them. And so there's a kind of thriller element to it as well,
Right.
that makes for good movie watching, right? I mean,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
we want to see our story of hope and the story of Jesus reflected, but I think that movie audiences are sophisticated now, and they want to see something that holds their interest as well. And I think that Resurrection really does that. And then woven throughout it is this beautiful Hans Zimmer and Lorne Balfe score.
Yeah.
So, which just makes your heart soar at moments, and makes your heart race at other moments. Uh, yeah,
Is this a
yeah, it's,
one-off with Discovery Plus, or is this?
listen, I have had so many surprise moves in my own career that I've learned to say never. I mean, we're hoping that the movie will be successful for them and that they will want more content from us. I think, as always, that just means the audience has to show up. And so, my request always is of our that the hope that our churches, that our pastors, will join us just in letting people know that this great film exists, that it's going to be on, that it's a wonderful resource, that it's a great resource for the church. I think, we were always very happy when we got calls. I remember Rick Warren calling when the Bible series came out, and he said, praise the Lord that I have new footage. If I had to like show Charlton Heston one more time, splitting
Yeah.
the Red Sea, it's great footage, but it's old. And, that we finally have, some great new images to show to support, what the church is doing,
Right.
to help tell those stories and, to get the youth groups involved, and all of that. So,
I met
uh,
Rick at your Ben-Hur junket years ago.
yes, he's
He got on the bus, and it was a kind of half empty bus, and still sat beside me. Like there were tons of seats.
yeah.
And we had the best time going to the studio. We went from the hotel to the studio together, and it was like your best friend or something. That was such a
He's
great junket, Roma.
he's so lovely. Honestly, Rick and Kay have just become such dear friends to us. And and if we ever need prayer pulled in our life, they're one of the first calls that we make. He's been so helpful over the years and so encouraging, because we go out on a limb to make this kind of content. It doesn't always make us the most popular filmmakers in town, but
Right.
and so we're always grateful when our own community realizes that and is supportive and is encouraging what we've been doing and continued and will continue to do. It's
You
it's what we love to do, and we feel very missional in what we're doing.
Well, and I've said this to you and Mark before. You guys have just created a faith movement on television, really,
Yeah.
because even before the Bible series, I mean, the fact that you had real life people on the reality shows that
Yes.
Mark produced that were vocal
Yes.
about their faith,
That's
and
right.
and
That's
before that, that didn't happen in scripted shows. Writers did not include people of faith that often, except as
Yeah.
punchlines.
Or if they did, they were like making fun of them or something,
Right.
like you
Yeah.
see still slow to show up in dramas, But we have tried to continue to do that. Like we had Messiah on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it, which was a different,
Yeah. I
slightly
was
different
at
kind of,
the reception
oh
there.
yes, slightly different kind of show for us, but very provocative, I think. And it really got people in conversation. Like it was a great question. Like, what would we do if,
Yeah.
not if, when, what will we do when Jesus comes back?
Right.
Will it be just chaos? What's going to happen? And of course, as you know, Resurrection is being released under Lightworkers brand and of course MGM. And Lightworkers is just my passion. My mantra over here is and continues to be that it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. And there's a lot of darkness out there, but we're
Right.
committed to continuing to try to find and tell stories of encouragement, stories of hope, and resurrection surely is the greatest story of hope that there ever was. And so to
Yeah.
have it play on Discovery Plus over the Easter season is really a blessing. We feel very, very grateful that it gets to go on there and that people will be able to gather over Easter and to be reminded,
Yeah.
of the beauty of the story, the sacrifice of Jesus. And, when you see the Holy Spirit come into that upper room at Pentecost, and that wonderful, it's almost like Harry Potter, how that
Right.
flame,
Yeah.
I mean, because as filmmakers, as modern filmmakers, we're charged with like what are we capable of doing with special effects, and what might that look like, um, and for the drama of it, a little breeze, doesn't, you want to sort of feel the power of
Yeah.
it, right? You want
Yeah.
to feel
Yeah.
the power of it, and so I think that the special effects team did a great job with that, but when we feel that in there and then you can see the people in the street looking up, it's like, what's happening? That house looks like it's on
Right.
fire with
Yeah.
spirit. And then they all spill out of the upper room, and now they're ready, now the
Yeah.
mission can
Yeah.
begin. And it's just such an exciting moment. Oh, I just love it.
Me too. I want to be respectful of your time. And I don't want to take over your afternoon here. Uh, I was curious because we're always talking. Like it seems like everybody is rebooting everything and revisiting things. And
Yes.
I'm sure that there's probably been some discussion at some point about your Touched by an Angel character,
Oh,
even though you're
I'm
your
only
friends have
remaining.
gone.
I know my
Yeah,
friends have gone home. My friends are now with the angels.
that's
And
right. Yeah,
I know we lost John Dye much too early. And as you know, I was such great friends with Della right up to, her final moments. I was
yeah,
so privileged to be able to be with her through her final illness. And, I just miss her so much. I miss her. Um, I know if I, I think that it would be lovely for it to come back. I really do, and it would be CBS would have to make that call. So if anybody, but I would love to, I would love to not just be in it, but produce it. And I would produce it with CBS, I think, if they were interested. And maybe now, but for 10 seasons or however long we run, my daughter laughs and she goes, Mom, you're like Monica, just, she kept having to learn. That was sort of the device that Tess, Della's character, was the older, wiser angel.
right. Yeah,
I was the novice angel, and it's like, for how many years could I still be the novice angel? So
yeah,
maybe in the new version, I could get to come back and finally be the wise angel. I
yeah.
could
There
be
you go.
more of the Tess role, Now it's
Right.
Monica, older, wiser Monica, and then we could find some great young actress to be, to be the novice,
Yeah.
Um, in the original version of Touched by an Angel, we did a pilot, and the pilot never aired. And they tested it. It didn't air, but they kept the premise, and they kept Della and I, and they kept the characters. The characters and the characters' names, and then we brought in a new executive producer, and we did a new, improved pilot. But in the original pilot that never aired, they had Monica dropped out of the sky into the ocean. And it was like, a brand new, she'd never been in human form before. And she dropped into the ocean. And there were a couple of like beach bums. And it was Santa Monica Bay. And she kind of climbs out of the ocean covered in, wet and uncertain where she was. And she says to these two beach bums, she's like, excuse me, where am I? And the guy said, you're in Santa Monica, dude.
Yeah.
And so then she, walks up the street, and she knows where she's supposed to go find Tess. That's the only instruction she has. And then somebody she meets asks her name, but she doesn't have a name. She's just a brand new angel. But the only reference she has is Santa Monica. And so she says, Monica. And so that's where the name came from, which is so, I just think it's so funny. That never aired, you wouldn't know that, but
Oh
just
wow.
a little behind the scenes tidbit how Monica got her name. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's great. That's great.
yeah. But I think, again, just because of the need for stories of hope and encouragement, I think it was a great, it was such a great format for a show. And it really tackled pertinent social issues,
Yeah.
but, and, encouraged the people to, it wasn't like I came in ever with a magic wand to fix the problem for you. It was really just that it was like surrender hand. The minute the person was able to open up and say, I can't do this by myself, I need help,
Right.
that the minute the vulnerability, then the heart opens, and that's when
Yeah.
spirit moves. And I found that in my own life too, when the heart opens. And so in the making of content, I think it's important for us as content makers to make content that opens the heart. I always say it's
Yes.
my job to open the heart, and
Yeah.
then the Holy Spirit will do the rest,
Right.
They call Rick Warren. That's not my job. My job is to make content that can set a context and that maybe your heart can be opened by. but
Yes.
we've got some great stuff coming from with Lightworkers. I know that you know we have a great social presence too,
Yes, I
across
follow.
our platforms, and we you know, and we just have continued to be committed to just trying to be positive, because we all know that social media can also be a scary place, and
Right.
unfortunately a lot of people saying a lot of mean things, particularly on Twitter, I find. And I think it's
Oh,
because
yeah.
people can hide behind these fake names, and
Right.
it's like they just rains hate sometimes, but I still remain committed, and my company remains committed to each day just meeting it
Right.
with kindness, and meeting it with something positive, and just trying to be a light, to light that candle in the darkness and just keep doing it. It's like,
Well, every time you respond to one of my tweets, it like makes my day. So I know we
oh,
follow each other on
you
Twitter,
do,
so I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that so
yeah,
much.
yeah. No, it's always nice to see a friendly face on there. um,
Yeah.
you know, and but we're, yeah, so we're going to be using our social media just to spread the word. But for anybody who's listening into this and wonders how they might be able to help, I would just love if they, just let somebody know, just, let people know we have created this beautiful resource,
Right.
and it's going to be on Discovery Plus, and spread the word. We've got the trailer online. You could send that to friends, and there are other photos and assets, just to let people know that it's coming, and that
Right.
that they get to see the resurrection on television over Easter. It's exciting.
And especially this year because some churches do big Easter productions, and this year
Yeah,
they don't have it. So now
right.
what you've done is you've provided them an Easter production that they can show.
That's true. That's true. Yes. I know. It's like for such a time as this, it
Yeah.
really, we just felt moved to do it, and we didn't even know, you know, going back into the cutting room, we didn't even know what we had, and what footage didn't make it into the TV series, but has made
Right.
it into the movie. So, some of it's been seen, but some of it hasn't been seen before. And I think it really, it came together, better than we expected. So we're super pumped about it. And, but yeah.
It's a
Look, I've had
beautiful
my
movie.
own. I thought, am I going to have any light? And I have had nothing but this huge beam of light shining in on me, coming in. Look at that! I'm like a big stream of sunlight. It's lovely,
Are you at your
warm.
house?
I'm actually in my house. Yes, I'm in my house. Yeah.
Okay, because I thought it looked like a hotel room. Your bedroom's very lovely.
Like, well, I've made the bed, knowing I was going to be just trying to find a quiet space here between
Yeah,
kids and
me
dogs.
too. Me too. Yeah.
No, I didn't even know what Zoom was before the pandemic,
Oh
and now
no.
I'm running my entire business on Zoom.
Oh
But
yeah.
and I know it's been a challenge, and it's an awful time for people. And listen, so many people have died and gotten sick, and it's all awful. And we just wish it had never happened. But
Yes.
I have the kind of personality, I just try to find, like the good in
The
things.
good. Yeah.
I just have trained myself to look for the good in things. And I have found in this time like a closeness, to the people that I care about. I feel that people are more likely to say, I love you, and to feel like a connection, even if we're not together on the phone or on FaceTime,
Right.
because we don't take anything for granted anymore. It's like
No.
every every moment has become meaningful, and anytime we can be with people we care about, even if it's at a distance, is more meaningful. And I've certainly gotten so much closer to my husband, even though we lived together and worked together for years.
Yeah.
Haven't been together like this, and I think during this time, either we were going to kill each other, because it's just the
Yeah.
two of us all the time, and we've just got a whole new appreciation for each other. And my dogs, I don't, we have these beautiful dogs, and I don't know what they'll do if we ever start going back to the office. They're so used to having us around, but we just look, we try to just look for the good in all of it. And we're happy to see the vaccine starting to pick up a little bit of traction and rolling out. I don't know I'm hoping maybe I'll be in the next rollout or the one after that. They're doing it by age, of course. So we're
Right.
obviously everybody that needs to get it before us should get it, will get it. But um, but yes, it's just been an extraordinary year, extraordinary year.
Did you all manage to miss the virus, or did you get it? I got it on Christmas.
Oh, you did? Oh, that
Hmm.
was a sucky time to get it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark got it at the very beginning. Like we locked down and he locked down with it. And but I didn't get it and the kids didn't get it. So
Oh, great.
and yeah. So that was so just he's been through it, and he had like a pretty bad flu is what he
Yeah.
experienced, but he didn't have to go to hospital or anything, thank God.
Oh,
Um,
me
and
either.
and little, yeah, good, good. So, but then that's the part of it that's been kind of unsettling, isn't it? Like some people get affected so badly and other
Right.
people hardly at all, and you just don't know. And so, we've tried to be very respectful and not be around people. Our kids are all kind of, in their own little pods, but they come out. But when they come out to us, we have a nice big yard, so we meet safely in the yard. We're not hanging out in the house, but we're so fortunate because we're in Southern California, and hanging out in the yard is an option because
Yeah.
it's warm.
Yeah.
I know that's not an option for a lot of people in the rest of the country or around the world. My family are all in
Yeah.
Ireland and they're still locked down. They still aren't allowed to drive
Oh,
certain
wow.
distances, and it's pretty bad over there. So, but we're grateful for technology that we're able to
Yes.
jump on Zoom or jump on FaceTime or it's like that's all a blessing too, that all of that exists and that we're able to communicate. And even though social media isn't real connection, it's certainly better than you feel kind of connected to people or seeing
Right.
somebody's photograph. Or so that's listen, we just make the best of it. And and I find that in America people are so resilient, and
Yeah.
they dig deep, and and we look out for each other, and
Yeah.
that's something too. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Thank you.
Dwayne, great to see you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. This has
Yeah.
been such a wonderful conversation, and I didn't again, I didn't want to take so much of your time, but
Oh, it's a
it's
pleasure. It's
been.
always lovely to see you, and you've been so supportive too over the years, and we're so grateful for that. And listen,
Well,
we are a community, and I on my social media, I've got friends who've got books, or friends who've got certain things coming up, and I always try to be supportive and let people know, and within the Christian community, and always grateful when the community steps up for us too. It's like
oh yeah.
we're all trying to make content that's good for all of us. And it's just about people knowing where to get it, how to get it, and how to see it. So
Right.
this is, I think I think we're encouraging people to go to so there's a certain uh, website which I've
Right.
completely forgotten now. I'm terrible.
I'll put it in
People
my
who
article.
put it up for us, thank you. If you put it up for
Yeah,
us, that
yeah,
would
I'll
be
send it to you. I think you have it, but I'll send it to you
you
again.
have it. I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm a terrible spokesperson suddenly. I've completely forgotten it. It's got a slash resurrection, that I know, but you'll have it. But thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
so much, Wayne. Yeah, take care.
Thank
And,
you, and just
stay
have a
safe.
wonderful week. You've made my day. I've just had such a good, enriching conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.